Well, hello everyone, and I'm Ed Parco, and this is Amy T. Meyer, and we're the hosts of. Look at that, and we're here. All right, so let's get. Our guest is actually running for a local assembly, District 22 in my area. He's a Navy vet. I wanted to have him on and talk about his service, but he's busy right now, walking around all over, making sure he's shaking hands and kissing babies. So let's get him in and out of here so he can go finish his day. All right, Chad, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Always fun to come on with you.
Good. Keep that thought.
Okay. I'll try to keep it right there.
We try to have fun on the show. It's not all about, questions and answers. But one of the questions we always ask is, why did you choose the service that you chose?
I chose the U.S. Navy because both of my grandfathers, my mom's dad and my dad's dad, were in the Navy. And that's why I went Navy. It was that simple. Walked in to the recruiting office in 1991 in the Navy because they were in the Navy.
Now, when you went, were you delayed or you went right away?
I walked in March and they sent me to boot camp in May.
All right. And then
I had a month to run around and try to get in shape as best I could.
And not get into trouble.
Well, I was already married, had a little boy, so I wasn't getting in too much trouble.
Hey, people still get into trouble. It depends on the type of trouble.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So you and I think off screen we were kind of talking. You went to RTC, NTC in San Diego.
I did, and the memory I have about that is just hearing the Marines on the other side, how loud they were, and how active they seemed to be. And that boot camp was scary. I was an older guy in boot camp. I was 20, almost 22, but it was a scary thing to do at the time. Thinking back at it. And for kids 17, 18, I could imagine. But it was a great experience. It kind of built a foundation for me. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I'd say I was getting out at that time. 20. Yeah, I got out at 23. I was finishing my master's at that time. Anyway, not trying to brag about it.
Yeah, you are bragging a little bit.
I know, because I went in early. I went real early. So for me, it was like I didn't have a choice. But I'll tell you this, when I was in San Diego, it was the coldest time you could be there. At 5 o'clock in the morning on that parade ground, it was freezing.
No, I was in May. It was beautiful. The weather was one thing you didn't have to deal with.
It was cold for me. I was on the East Coast. I was in Fort Lee, Virginia. And it was January.
Navy.
Not the Navy.
Yeah.
Where were you for the Navy first? Come on, let's go to that one. The
JBLM. Because I didn't have to go to basic training again.
Oh, that's right. You were Army, then Navy.
So you did Army first and then.
Yeah.
Yep.
She learned from her mistakes.
So which boot camp was the hardest? With Navy, right?
She didn't have to.
Oh, you didn't have to. Okay.
And that's weird because there was the guy that was in when I was in, the guy that was in charge of of our thing. He was going back through boot camp and he was in the Army, and now he had to actually have to go back through. So
I don't know. I presented a service dog in Montana to a female who was Air Force first, and then she went Army, she went Air Force, then Marine Corps, and then Army.
Wow.
And so she had to go through Air Force and Marine Corps basic or boot camp, but not Army.
And did she retire? Did she?
She actually did about 5 years in each service. So not technically she didn't retire, but she's a really neat lady. And she was one of the first women in cybersecurity for all three branches. And she's probably late 60s, but super active in Montana.
Right. You see a lot of interesting stories about people why they join or what their story is.
that is correct. I mean, that's why. I mean, I joined to get out of this area and swore I'd never come back. And
here you are,
that's
right in the middle of Modesto.
I was in Turlock, and I said we'd never come back. And then my grandparents out of Derry, and of course, it took me 20 years, but I finally came back.
We're glad you did, Ed.
Yeah, thanks.
So why did you go in when you went in then?
Here, let me make him a little bit bigger so he gets nervous. I'm just kidding.
He's going to make me nervous. I'm nervous now. I don't. I did.
You were asking questions of us. So you're
well, I
nervous.
turned it on you. I turned it on. I joined in 1991. The first Gulf War had started, and my dad was in Congress at the time, and he was one of the people that voted for the war with Saddam Hussein. He had invaded Kuwait and so forth. So I felt like I needed to join. He voted for the war, and I thought a member of Congress going to vote, and I was at the right age. I didn't know how the war was what was going to happen or how it was going to go down, but I just felt a call to service. Like I said, both my grandpas had joined the Navy, so that was what got me to even think about joining, was his vote in Congress and the conflict going on. And so I didn't tell him. I just went to the recruiting office, told my wife, of course, and joined, and away we went.
What was your MOS?
I was a Morse code operator, which there's no jobs when you get out if you're a Morse code operator.
I was going to say, did you use it a lot while you were in?
Yeah, I was stationed in Florida for a while, but
no one uses Morse code anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, the data is gone, and but that was it. It was naval intelligence. I was at Naval Security Activity in Homestead, Florida, and in Key West, Florida. So when I did my training at Fort Devens in Massachusetts, it was an Army base. I think they've closed it down since. It was, I don't know why I picked that. I think my score, when you take the score, and they said, here are the jobs and they needed that at the time. So, but it was a hard thing to learn. Morse code was hard. It took 3 or 4 months, and you had to pass the test. And the whole thread is, if you don't pass this test on Morse code, you're going out on a ship to chip paint. That's what you're doing if you don't get,
mate.
if you don't get out of the A school. So that was everybody wanted to pass that test.
Well, at least you didn't fall for the one where they say, hey, go in as a boatswain, mate, and then you can do all the different jobs on the ship.
And you know what? I would have.
You want.
I would have done any job that because I just walked in and joined. I really didn't ask for a job. I just ended up with that. But I had such a calling to join that it really didn't matter what job they were going to give me. I wasn't thinking about getting out of the Navy at the time.
How long were you in?
4 years, and then I did the reserves after.
And go ahead, Amy.
So,
Amy.
did you deploy while
no,
you
I
were
was.
in?
No, I did not. I was a dirt sailor, as they say. I was on land, so I did not. That's okay. Morse code. They keep Morse code guys on land.
Yeah, I was a corpsman, but I got stationed back at Camp Pendleton because I went through physical therapy school, which is not on ships.
Well, the thing is that as soon as I got in, the war ended. I mean, the first Bush, he went in and got Saddam out of Kuwait, and it was over by the time I had got going. So that's just the way it worked. But I'm still thankful and glad that I made the decision to join, because it helped me in so many ways.
How did it help you?
Well, just helped me be a better person ultimately. And of course, you know what the military does to you on discipline, and it teaches you certain things, and you see different people and you meet different people. And that call to service, it satisfied something inside of me, because I've always believed in public service. So in some form or another, whether it's elective office or being in the military or working at the hospital, working for people is kind of what I've always thought I wanted to do. So it helped me in so many ways, and I'll always be thankful that I made the decision to join.
Now, when you said 4 years and you did your 2 years of inactive, that was the same thing I had, but I had to extend because of the schooling. When you were finishing that 4th year, did you know you were going to get out and not extend?
I did not know. They offered Guam. I was going to go to Guam if I would have stayed in, and my wife and I talked about it, but ultimately decided to come home to Ceres. But I didn't know. We really thought about re-enlisting. They wanted me to. They offered it. I had a college degree by that time.
Did you go to school at night, or did you
I
have
did.
a degree? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
So, was there anything that surprised you about your military service, or that you think of going in for your passion and different things like that? But was there anything in the service that surprised you?
You know what surprised me is how active they are in sports. I mean, the Army has this, all the sports. I mean, they are so active in the fitness part of it. They have teams for everything. I was stationed in Homestead. I was stationed. It was an Air Force base. So I got to work with Air Force and Marines and Army folks, and same in Key West. So it was always about everyone playing softball or everyone working out or so that surprised me that was so important. But when I think back on it, it makes a lot of sense. And of course, not knowing the military when I went in, the difference between being enlisted and an officer is a serious thing. And when you get in, you find out how serious it is. And civilians may not know that. There's a real divide there. And there has to be. But that surprised me.
No, you had your degree. Why didn't you go to be an officer? Is it just what you didn't want to do?
Yeah, I thought about that, but I just decided not to.
Yeah. My job, when I looked at it, I was like, it'd be a service line, right? And that's ship only. So it's like,
well, no, if you're going to be in the Navy, you got to get ready to go out on the ship.
Yeah.
Or you should switch to Amy's Army folk.
That's okay. My son's in the Army, and they actually parade too much and you have to get in formation every morning and do all that stuff. That's not the Navy way. So for me, when I was where I was stationed, we showed up to work. We didn't have to get in formation before we went to work.
That's interesting. I had to do formation when I was a CB station with the Marines here at JBLM. We had formation every weekend.
Yeah, we had formation too. I remember doing formation a lot.
Sorry. I tell people when I was in, it was like MASH. So it was like that's the Camp Pendleton Hospital was like MASH. We all did our job, but it was no one really cared, as long as you did your job.
And thinking about Amy's question about surprise, it also surprised me because they really encourage you to go to school. Like if they want their folks to go to school, they will help you make time to go to school at night and so forth. And I was surprised by that too. I was thankful they let me finish my degree. And
they actually they reimburse you while you're in too for so much for that course. That's how it was when I was in.
Yeah, I didn't get any reimbursement.
You should have put in for it.
Yeah,
you would have gotten.
I'm a little late.
Yeah. You could still do it though. Now, all right. So this is a question I like to ask. All right, and we'll get into more of them. But what did you give up the moment you left the service? What was the first thing you stopped doing? For me, it was saying 1,300, 12, 1,400, that kind of stuff.
Shining my shoes so much. Shaving. We could. I'll let that go sometimes because you have to be on top of that shaving business, and probably those two things, shining my shoes and shaving. I let up on those two things a little bit.
We cheated. We just had patent leather.
No, you had to shine those shoes.
No, we had patent leather, so we didn't have to wear shine those shoes.
Yeah, and it was an honor because there was one time I got nominated for Sailor of the Quarter. Man, I thought that was cool. Of course, I didn't win, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah. All right. So when you transitioned out, right? So you're leaving Florida, came back here, right? I assume you left Florida. Well, I mean, did you know exactly what you're going to do when you got here?
No, I went to work in the state Senate for the guy named Chuck Calderon. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do.
Can I ask, how did you get to that from doing Morse code and just?
Well, before I went in the service, I was involved in politics a little bit, had run my own business and did some consulting. So I knew Chuck, and it was an entry level legislative aid job in the Senate. It fit my skill set. I had finished my degree by then, so that's how I got there.
I mean, because politics is a family business, right?
Politics can be a family business. It cannot be a family business. I've known Chuck forever, so I knew Chuck.
But your dad you said was in the Senate, right?
No, my dad was in Congress at the time, and Chuck was in the state Senate, and they did know each other. They were a member of the Gang of Five. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gang of Five, but it was a group of
Why don't you help Amy with that one?
Amy knows? The
No,
Gang of
Amy
Five?
doesn't know. That's why I'm trying to
Amy.
help her with that.
The Gang of Five was a group of 5 Democrats that took on Willie Brown back in the late 80s. And they moved to get rid of him from the speakership. And Gary, my dad, was one of them. Chuck was another one. Rusty Araya, Steve Peace, and Jerry Eves. And they were kind of became infamous for taking Willie on. Of course, Willie ended up staying in. But that's how I met Chuck, through his time in the assembly with Gary. So we were close friends, and I got out of the service. My resume fit a position with legislative aid. It would be like being an E4 or E3 in the Navy, being a legislative aid. But it was a great experience, and it kind of started my career in Sacramento. I worked about 8 years in Sacramento. Ended up working for the governor, and
Which governor?
Governor Davis on UC Merced, and agriculture were my issues that I handled for him in the Valley. And then I went on to start my own business and did different things.
What was your business? I'm nosy.
Public relations. We did a lot of grassroots operations, and then it turned it into media crisis, how you handle media crisis, that kind of thing, campaigns, all kind of things.
Wow. Looking back, would you change anything?
In my life? Regrets. I've had
except
a
for
few.
coming in here. You can't say coming in here, but that's next.
Coming into the Ed show. I got to meet Amy, though.
There you go.
I don't know if I would have stayed in or not. I think about
some people look at it and go, well, I wish I would have done this differently or this differently, went in earlier, Did it help you going in later, though?
In the Navy?
Yeah.
Is a little bit later. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if that helped me or not. And I don't know what I would have done different. You do the things you think at the right time. You make the choice, but I don't know. I'd have to think about that. That's a deep question.
Yeah, well, it didn't have to be that deep. Just, we all make mistakes in life occasionally. Not all.
Well, what would you do different?
I would have went in as an officer.
You had a degree at the time?
No, but I got my degrees, right? I would have picked a different service. I didn't understand the Navy, right? And I didn't understand I didn't understand. And this is, I remember I was telling one guy this and he spit his beer out on the show, but basically I had no idea that the Marine Corps was a department of the Navy, under the Navy. I didn't know they were together either until I saw them playing football together. And this guy's going to be a Marine. It's like, what? I didn't understand. And that was my first take on, I just didn't understand. My stepdad was a Marine. My dad was Air Force. My uncle was Air Force. And my dad wasn't around because he died when I was 12, hairy cell leukemia. And, thank you. But so I didn't understand the whole process. And when you're at that point, you're young and no one's there to tell you, right? So when my son was joining, and let's make this evens for all of us. That way you don't feel so by yourself. He wanted to be a medic. Air Force ran him around and said, yeah, you had a high ASVAB, but we need you over here. And so I'm like, let's go check the Army. Army says, here, you want that? Done. No problem. You got that job. And then he's like, should we go check the Navy? I'm like, no, because you're not, unless you want to be on a ship, you're not going to the Navy. I got lucky.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, my uncle was in the Marines and I didn't know the whole Marines were when I went in, but it wouldn't have mattered. I was picking Navy. I didn't even think about the ship.
Well, I also, like with Army, you advance so much faster than the Navy.
Right. I did find out Air Force is the slowest advance. It's very hard because people want to be in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Well, they have, and they put a lot of emphasis on education. So they have the community college of the Air Force where you don't have to use your tuition assistance or for funding and different things. And I think so everybody, the level is so much higher with, so you're competing for slots with people who all of them have degrees.
In the Air Force, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and then the Navy, you have people who join in other countries who don't have to give up their citizenship. So they're going to stay in their whole 20 just to get that whole thing, get the retirement to go back. And so they don't get out of the medical field. They take, or whatever the field they're in, they stay in. And so the only way to advance is when people get out, and we get stuck at E4 forever.
Right. I was stuck at E4 forever.
Where my son's like going for E5 right now. He'll be at E5 right around the corner. He's been in 2.5 years.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
No, yeah, because I don't want to pay for him. You know, you don't make much as an E4, E5.
No, you don't. I didn't. Yeah, and I didn't know the salary structure when I joined either. I had no idea what
It was just above poverty.
it was. But they took good care of my wife and I on the base.
makes up for it, but you know, yeah.
It was a great experience.
Yeah. So we always, or I used to ask, I haven't asked this in a long time.
Go ahead.
Do you have any charities that you love to volunteer for now, or even throughout the years?
I'm a member of the American Legion. I'm not a huge. I mean, I'm a member, pay my dues, and I help different organizations, but I don't have like a favorite that I are really involved in. I grew up. I was a coach, a youth coach, and in basketball and baseball. When my kids were involved, always tried to do that, and just be part of the community, be active.
Well, because you do public service right now. I mean, you're running to be out there again. So that's almost like I don't want to say a charity, but you're giving up so much time. It's hard to give more time than that.
I don't know that people think politicians are like in the charity business.
No, what I mean is you're giving public service.
Yeah, no, I know we run as public servants, but I don't run into very many voters that think politicians are
most
like
voters hate every politician.
Listen, that's what we ask for. We put our name out there. We put ourselves out there. We present our ideas, and whatever the voters think, they're right. So, but yeah, I don't know. American Legion's my favorite group, Amy, to answer your question. Nothing against the VFW though. I gotta watch them. I go to everybody.
That's funny.
All right. So so did you retire yet? I mean, like from your other, because you said you had a business.
Yeah, I'm just a small business owner. I'm not retired. I'm stepped back from that.
And that was the same business you started that you were telling us about?
Yeah, well, it's changed. It's just changed with what I do and my clients. But I've stepped back during the last, since I decided to run in January, been pretty much just running for the office. But I'm not retired. I'm a long way from retired. There's no government retirement. I only worked in the state legislature. You combine my Navy time and my state time, it's like 11 years. But I really wasn't in it to retire. So I need to start thinking about that. I'm getting a lot of gray hair.
That's okay. Yeah. You are older because you started older. So
yeah, it is.
But all right, so we're talking public serving. We're talking about where you are right now because you're running for District 22, Assembly District 22. Why did you throw your hat in the race in that, if you don't mind me asking? And I'm not trying to get political.
Well, you can get political.
I don't know. That's not what we're trying to do. I just want to know why you're running. And the reason I'm asking is because people, how do I put this? They're, especially in 22, a lot of people are really upset with with changes that we've had in California, and we're in California. So what are you trying to do with while you're running? Because I don't know how to ask this question, but basically it's like my wife won't even let me run for mayor, and You're running for something that,
So, I was going to run for the state assembly 20 years ago, and I decided not to at a different time in my life. So when this seat became open and no incumbent and new seat was created through redistricting, I felt like with my resume and my knowledge of the district, I fit the district perfectly in my middle of the road positions. The two issues I'm really focusing on are safe neighborhoods and affordability for our residents. So I'm pushing that everywhere I go. I feel like we need someone that will stand up to both parties. I'm not a partisan type. I think the Democrats are as wrong as much as they're right. Same with the Republicans. And we need people that will put the residents in the Central Valley first. And so that's how I've always felt. That's my position. I disagree with the Republicans sometimes and the Democrats sometimes, but sometimes Republicans are right. And it's okay for Democrats to say that. And it's okay for Republicans to say Democrats are right if they're right. So that's why I'm running. We need a non-partisan person that can be effective for us, that will fight for us. And I think I'm that person. And since we're on a veteran show, let me share with
That
you.
was my next question about veterans. What are you going to do in our area for veterans?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that is not fair for veterans is, like, if you were running for office, Ed, you couldn't put the word veteran on your ballot designation. They don't allow that word to be part of your, like, I'm a businessman / veteran is what I wanted to put, but the word veteran is not allowed. Well, people can put soldier, put cop, put teacher.
Can you put sailor?
I don't. Yeah, I guess but I'm a former sailor, and it has to be within. They wouldn't let you put former sailor.
Has to be how long does it have to be?
You have to be within 6 months or a year of being a sailor. But I'm going to ask that question. That's a good one. But I don't know if it's not the same as veteran. It's not the same as veteran.
They don't allow veteran.
Well, I think I know why they don't allow it, because politicians don't want to run against veterans, so they don't allow the word. And I think California should make it where if you were honorably discharged, you should be allowed to put veteran as part of your ballot designation. But what I'm going to do for veterans is I want to be on the Assembly Veterans Committee, and I want to be their advocate in any way they need me to be, on whether it be homelessness, services, whatever they need me to do. That's what I want to be, their advocate.
Okay, because this is PTSD month, right, Amy?
Yep. That is
so
June is PTSD. I did not know that.
Yeah, and I had that shirt on, but like I said, it was lime green, so the green screen just went right through me. So there's I don't want to get on the whole suicide 22 a day and all that stuff,
right.
But the issue with PTSD and how we can get help for these people who need that help. It's hard enough to get them to ask for help, but not to be able to get that help. And what I mean is the VA is not really the right place to fix this right now.
Well, who is the right place?
That's what we need to find out. What, Amy? Who's the right people?
Well, but the county offers a lot of services for veterans. I mean,
they do, and so does the VA. But the problem is that a lot of it wants that here's a pill, here's 50, and that we had a gentleman on 2 weeks ago, or whatever, and he was huge, major PTSD, and he was on 15 different medications from the VA.
Kane, yes. And
go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry.
Okay, so one of the biggest things is it's the traditional way of dealing with both mental health and PTSD that is being challenged nowadays, because it's like you only get the opportunity to use medication, and you're only offered traditional psychology, which never gets you to the thriving. Ed and I have had multiple people talk about PTSD growth, trying to get a service member, actually to the thriving, not even to going back, but going forward better. And the VA, in my experience, and I'll just speak for Washington, it doesn't have all the different, because it's a toolbox. We need to have a lot of different solutions so that people can find what works for them, versus you have to have this cookie cutter. And the VA can be a really triggering, and I know Ed loves that word, space to go.
No,
like they only want to talk
about authentic that I love.
It's authentic. So, it's those things like veterans.
They treat the symptoms and not how to get rid of the problem, or how to deal with the problem and get through it. They only want to deal with the symptoms. And so how do you deal with symptoms? You give them stuff to deal with the symptoms, and that's what needs to be fixed. There's a lot of things at the VA that need to be fixed. And when people are going to Congress, or even in this, here locally at the Sacramento, there's a lot of stuff that can be done. It just, people don't think about it. They think about all the other stuff. California, we got a water problem and it's on fire. Well, we can do storage and we can thin the woods, and now we can focus on other things. But right. if we don't focus on those two things, then we don't have an emergency situation to be able to get more money from the federal government. We just need to have people really focus on the veterans, and because a lot of the PTSD people that are homeless want to be homeless because they like the outside that are vets, because that's what they can deal with.
Well,
So-
that's interesting. You guys say that, but I have heard good things about our county services. Now the VA is a federal, so I don't know. And I will look into that, and I will want you guys to advise me, and if I get in there, because one of my requests will be to be on the Veterans Committee, and to try to make a difference where I can.
Well, and I'd also say that sometimes different demographics have different experiences with
Right.
in service providers, and that would be something that I would be.
And did I hear you say so?
Sensitive.
They throw pills at them? Is that?
yes, they treat. The
Well, that
symptoms.
kind of sounds like when some of the kids we do to the kids when they have problems. We just throw pills at them and hope.
Instead of dealing with what you
Right.
get, yeah. So and we found, I would say probably 80-ish% of the people with PTSD, and I could, I don't actually had some demon before they went in the service, and then it got exacerbated by the service. And then
Right.
you have about the other 20% who had no issues, but then what they saw in, or the fact that they are giving something up, are the ones who have the other PTSD.
I saw an interesting fact that Vietnam vets had a lower level of PTSD than vets from other generations.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true, or do you guys know if that's
yeah, because one of the things they say is it took longer to get home. Like we've had a couple of the SEAL teams on, people from this, and they are saying that their buddies like, hey, yesterday I was killing this guy, and today I'm in bed with my wife, right? And so there's a lot of that work.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they are getting shipped back, they used to be on ships. Another thing that took longer to get here, and so they had times to deal with it. We had Captain Charlie Plum on, who was in Vietnam, and he was in Hanoi Hilton, right?
Right.
And he was in their same place as McCain, and there was less. So when they were getting out of there and coming home, they told all their families, watch out, these guys are going to be basket case. You're going to have to institutionalize them and all this. And they were some of the most, they had no PTSD. The only people who had issues were the ones who were only there for 30 days and then was let go with the rest of them. Because the other ones had time to work through it. He said, we laughed the hardest I've ever laughed in my life in there, which is, shocking, but that's how they dealt with things.
Well, like you said the other day when I was on your other show, we don't have as many veterans in our public service or public elected office, whether it be local or state or federal. And we need more. We just need that perspective of folks that, like you two, that walked in and joined, willing to pay the ultimate.
Well, I also think that women veterans. I feel like there's two demographics that identify as veterans. It's the retiree and the officer. But all the women veterans that just did one or two tours tend to not join the Legion or the VFW.
Well, that's true.
Because they don't feel like their demographic is truly included.
And you know what? Like Ed asked, one of the things surprised me is how many women were in the Navy. I mean, there are a lot of women that are in when you get there, you find out. But then you don't join the American Legion or the VFW afterwards. I see. Right. And that's true. At my American Legion, there's only a couple women that are members.
So my American Legion story is I joined the Legion, but they asked if I would feel more comfortable in the auxiliary, doing the things with women, which was really hard for me because I always joke around, I'm not very domesticated. People should feel sorry for my husband.
There's no joking about it. She is not.
and
so she was on. So her husband was deployed, right? And he'd watch the shows or listen to them, right? And I said, okay, what you need to do is a little thing to let him know you love him. I forget that. She never did any of it. It's like, Jesus.
You can't get her to do that?
She wouldn't do anything.
Your husband's in...
He's back now, but he was deployed last year when we were doing the show.
And
you couldn't have her do a signal to him.
She wouldn't even do a signal for him. It's like,
Amy.
Yeah. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know who this person was. This was not the person he married if all of a sudden I change.
So did you join the auxiliary?
I did not, because here's the problem is I don't, I've been...
Were you offended when they asked that?
But here's my... It wasn't
it'd be like,
offended.
would you like to be back in the kitchen with everybody, or here with us drinking?
The problem is, I don't want to be disrespectful to those women and the things that they do. I very much value how they are supporting their service members, right? But so then I went to the room with the Legion guys, and I'm the only woman. And then I feel like I'm looked at as a feminist,
Right,
and I
no.
don't necessarily feel that I'm a feminist. And so I just really did not feel comfortable or included. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah,
Um,
you should have told them that your dad, what you hung out with your dad all the time, and this is what you felt, and he was a veteran, and so this is why you want to be with. I mean, it's like, and you got to remember that's a totally different generation too. They probably were only like 50 years older than you, right? 20, 30.
There was a bit of an age gap, but it's I think women veterans specifically who are not retirees and officers have a hard time finding where we see that we can contribute and that we're seen. And so,
Right.
and I would think like there are other organizations that are really great about it, like Minority Vets, which my friend has been on, and different things like that. And I am really enjoying the MVPs group. And
What's the MVP for us who don't know that?
that
and
is
people listening?
merging vets and players, but they're like the VFW. It's only for combat vets. But they use the same level as VFW. So if you deployed, if the VFW will take you, MVP will take you.
I don't understand, and please don't take this wrong. Why don't you start your own woman's one? And I don't mean that wrong. I mean, like, this is like, have this and have your own.
Well, but
I know you want to be part of the other stuff. I'm not saying not to be, but you could actually start something and make it better than what's there.
would it only allow women in?
So
Why
there
not?
are women veteran
just kidding.
organizations. There are women veteran organizations, and here again,
Yeah, but they're not as big as the two you just mentioned,
no,
right?
but I don't. But I do feel like I like the inclusivity with brothers and sisters of arms.
Yeah, I agree too. So maybe
Right.
maybe you need a bunch of women to join these organizations, and then it would be 50-50. That's what happened with Rotary. Rotary didn't have any women, and then all of a sudden women were in. I mean, had to go to court, but still they're in.
Well, so to me,
Because nonprofits, you can control who's in your group, whether you
this
believe
is
it or
true.
not. Yeah.
I would say the Travis Manion Foundation has a ton of female veterans, and so I feel like that's probably the one that has the most, because it is inclusive with whether you're combat or not, officer or enlisted, and
Right.
then also with the families of the fallen and everyone else. I would probably say I've enjoyed TMF the most because of its inclusivity.
All right. Anything else, Amy? You want to ask him before we kick him out of here?
That was
We
good.
keep it about 30 minutes, and we're over a little bit.
That was good. I sure appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, I appreciate you
Nice
being
meeting
here.
you, Amy.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Thank
and
you
good
for your
luck.
service. I'm going to need a little bit of luck. A little bit of Navy luck.
California is a Democratic state, so
And
he's got an 80% chance
Yeah, I don't know about that.
because he still has to beat the other Democrat.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm honored to be running, and we're going to work the next 4 or 5 days and see what happens.
That's right. And best of luck for
Thank
you.
you.
All right, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And
And thank
everybody
you
else.
for your service too, Chad.
Thank you.
All right, you done now there, Amy? You want me
I
to
am.
say goodbye? All right. Thanks for being here today. Everybody, thanks for watching. And if you're watching afterwards, let us know. If you like what we do, just follow us. And we're here every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:30. And we'll talk to you next week.